They called it the Astrovigil, a sleek survey ship venturing beyond mapped space. Captain Myra Solano stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the start chart display. The void outside was silent, cold, and empty, till the sensors cried out. A faint blip appeared on the long-range scanner, a drifting mass unlike any known vessel. The silence broke as alarms chimed softly. Every crew member held their breath, hearts hammering. Mira's voice cut through the tension. "What is it?" Lieutenant Ree's gloved hand hovered over the control panel. He leaned forward, reading the data. Known signature, Captain, hull design matches no database. Ancient and dangerous. His voice trembled just a little. Engineers and scientists crowded around, exchanging uneasy glances. The ship lay ahead like a giant sea creature trapped in the dark. The idea that anything could survive here sent a shiver through them all. Dr. Anya Patel, the ship's xenobiologist, pressed her palm to her forehead, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She imagined the creatures that might lurk within that husk, creatures shaped by a world more hostile than any human mind could truly grasp. Class 15 Deathworlds were places where life barely hung on. To have found a ship built for such a place, and to detect life inside. It felt like finding hope inside a graveyard. Below deck, the engineering team worked quickly to power up the auxiliary shuttle. Pumps hummed, fuel lines pulsed, and repulsive thrusters warmed. Technician Johar checked his toolkit one more time, securing hatches and scanning his own suits. "Integrity. We'll need every precaution," he said quietly. "No mistakes." His steady voice offered comfort. Johar's calm in crisis was legendary, and even he looked serious now. Up on the bridge, the air crackled with nervous energy. Sensors showed pockets of breathable air inside the foreign hull, but also dangerous radiation levels. The readings flickered, refusing to settle. Counselor Vega, trained in crew psychology, moved among the officers, offering soft words. "Remember your training. We explore, we learn, we protect each other." Her calm tone helped ease the edge of fear. Mira felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders. She recalled her first mission 10 years ago when she believed the universe was kind and orderly. Now she knew it was neither kind nor orderly, but it was re-land. It needed brave souls to face its mysteries. "Sound the boarding alarm," she ordered, her voice firm but not harsh. "Reassemble your team, Patel. You're with them. The Iga keep comes open." Johar readied the shuttle. In the docking bay, 5 suited figures waited beneath blinding lights. Myra watched through the viewport as Ree's team climbed into the craft. Their faces, etched into helmet visors, showed a mixture of fear and excitement. Each person carried a personal talisman, a locket, a drawing, a small stone, tokens of Earth to remind them why they dared this mission. The shuttle door hissed closed. Engines roared to life, echoing through the bay. Mira felt a hollow ache in her chest as she watched her people depart into the unknown. She whispered to herself, "Come back safe. History is watching." As the shuttle detached, the Astrovigil drifted closer to the derelict's hull. It loomed like a fallen giant, mangled plating carved by acid rain and raging storms. Faint ripples of heat still warped the metal in places. Then, through the static of distant hums, came a soft voice crackling inside the abandoned ship. "Help. Us." Myra's breath caught. The words were human. Hope and dread collided in her mind. This was no ghost story or myth. It was real lives pleading in the dark. She gripped the armrest of her chair, set a course. "Bring them home," she whispered to the helmsman. Down in the shuttle, LT re-steadied his pulse as the hatch cycled open. Toxic fumes hissed in, and the floor vibrated underfoot. He raised his rifle, its beam slicing through the gloom. Dr. Patel followed, scanning. Frantically for signs of life, Counselor Vega remained at his side, ready to record every emotion. Johar closed the hatch and sealed them in. On the bridge of the Astrovigil, Mira watched the feed vanish as the shuttle lost comms. For a tense moment, the void outside pressed. In, then static returned. Clearer now, with a single word echoing through the speakers. Boarding. Mira exhaled and stood. She straightened her uniform, her heart pounding with equal parts fear and hope.
Oh.
This was the moment they would make history or be lost to the void themselves. She switched her headset on. Prepare to board at 0600 hours. Lieutenant Reese stood at the mouth of the alien airlock, his breath fogging the glass of his helmet. He felt his heart pound like a war drum. Behind him, Dr. Anya Patel and technician Johar waited in perfect silence, every muscle tense. Counselor. Viga's steady voice crackled in their earpieces. Remember why you're here. Trust each other. We nodded, gave a firm thumbs up, and pressed the release. With a hiss, the airlock opened onto a corridor bathed in dull, sickly green light. Their boots made hollow echoes on the metal grating. The floor trembled underfoot as if the ship itself were breathing. Ree raised his rifle, the weapons, beam cutting through the gloom. Jagged walls arced overhead, sealed by ancient plates, twisted as if by immense pressure. Every surface was scarred deep grooves clawed into metal, black scorched trails like spider webs. Patel's sensors beeped warnings of toxic vapors. While flickering radiation spikes registered on her wrist display, Johar swept the corridor with a handheld scanner.
Mouse.
Toxins at 25 times safe levels, he reported in a calm voice. Radiation fluxes ahead. His words were flat, but his fingers shook slightly. Viga's face appeared on a small monitor inside Ree's helmet. Her eyes were gentle, but her words were firm. Stay close. Slow and steady. They moved forward, each footstep careful, each breath measured. As they rounded a bend, a soft hiss echoed from the darkness. Ree froze. A fine mist drifted through broken vents, tendrils of green smoke swirling in the light. Patel coughed behind him, her visor misting. She tapped her chest plate to activate a filter boost. It smells like chemicals and rot, she whispered. The smell was foul, mixed with something old and metallic. Ree swallowed hard and pressed on. They entered a wider chamber, its low ceiling dripping condensation. Pools of dark liquid reflected the faint glow of broken overhead lamps. In the center lay a massive bulkhead, half open and torn. Beyond it, the corridor continued in more darkness. But what caught their breath was the voice, a distant, ragged whisper that sounded unmistakably human. Please, help us. Ree held up his hand. Did you hear that? He said, voice soft. Patel's head bobbed. Human voice, she confirmed, but garbled. Weak. Johar clicked his scanner toward the bulkhead. Life signs ahead. 3, maybe 4. Fear and hope collided in Ree's chest. Memories of home, of families, waiting on Earth, flickered through his mind. He steadied himself. Let's move. They pressed past the torn bulkhead. The walls here were scarred by acid etches and burn marks. Ree's boots splashed through shallow puddles that hissed. Under his weight, Patel's light swept across the walls, revealing scratched symbols, circles, and lines that made no sense, as if drawn by someone desperate. Each mark felt like a cry for help from long ago. Ree's throat tightened. The corridor curved downward, slanting, as if the ship had been dragged into a river of rock. The air grew warmer, more oppressive. Radiation readings spiked again. Johar tapped the scanner. Levels climbing fast. We need to be quick. Patel placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. We've trained for this, she said. We can do it. Ree looked at them as T-Man felt a surge of pride. They were far from home, on a ship from a world made to kill. Yet here they stood, undeterred. At the end of the corridor, they found a heavy blast door. Deep gouges ran across its surface. A makeshift lock hung open, the mechanism jammed by corrosion. Ree signaled Johar to set charges. The technician nodded, placing small explosive nodes along the seam. Viga's voice offered support. You are not alone. We are with you. With a sharp click, Johar armed the charges, then backed away. Ree raised his rifle, and Patel steadied her scanner. A low thrum of energy filled the passage. Ree's finger hovered near the trigger. 3, 2, 1. The charges boomed in a muffled roar. Metal screamed as the door buckled inward. Green light spilled through the gap, and beyond, a vast chamber opened before them. Shapes moved in the shadows, tall, gaunt figures on the far side, and in the center, a single beam of pale light fell on something small and human. Ree exhaled, raising his rifle higher. "Stay sharp. We're almost there." His voice was steady, though his heart raced. They had crossed the threshold of terror. Now whatever lay inside would test their courage and prove why humanity refused to back down. Even in the darkest corners of the universe, they forced the hatch open and spilled into a vast chamber. Flickering overhead lamps cast long shadows that danced along the curved walls. The air smelled of rust and stale water. Metal grates formed the floor, but many were torn or bent, leaving gaping holes. Each step echoed like a heartbeat. Lieutenant Ree held his rifle steady as his team fanned out, their lights carving narrow beams through the gloom. Every flicker of shadow felt alive. Almost at once, something moved just beyond sight. A hulking shape slid behind a support pillar, its bulk too large for any human or known alien. Ree's pulse raced as he aimed his rifle toward the darkness. For a moment, the giant silhouette paused, then lurched forward with terrible speed. Dr. Patel gasped. Technician Johar stumbled back. Counselor Vega's calm voice crackled. "Hold your ground and stay close." They formed a tight circle, lights crossing in the dark. The creature burst into view, a massive scaled beast with limbs like tree, trunks and eyes that glowed faintly red. Its claws scraped the metal floor, sending sparks flying. Refired a stun pulse, but it bounced harmlessly off thick hide. The beast roared, a sound that shook their bones. They ducked behind a fallen cargo crate, hearts hammering. A second stun blast lit the chamber, but the creature charged through the light, knocking over crates in its path.
Power flickered and
died. The lamps went out, plunging them into total darkness. A heavy silence swallowed their breathing. For a heartbeat they stood frozen, every sense alert to the sound of the creature's heavy steps. Then Ree reached to his belt and snapped. On a small emergency lamp, a red glow bathed their faces. Vega whispered, "We are safe for now," though her voice trembled. They checked each other quickly. No serious injuries yet, but all felt the weight of fear. Under the red light, they backed toward a narrow catwalk leading deeper into the ship. The walkway was twisted metal, half collapsed over a dark pit. Patel's light revealed jagged bars blocking their path. Ree knelt and lifted one end of a broken support beam. Johar helped him lever it loose, sweat beading on his brow. They propped it across the gap, forming a shaky bridge. Each of them crossed one by one, boots slipping on oily patches, hearts in their throats. Beyond the pit lay a small control console, its screen cracked and dim. Johar knelt and pried open the panel, connecting loose cables with trembling fingers. Sparks flew as he bypassed damaged circuits. The red lamp flickered brighter and then switched off. Overhead, a weak white light returned. Relief washed over them as the chamber brightened just enough to see the hatch to the hold door ahead. They stood before the heavy bulkhead, its metal scarred by acid burns and deep gouges. Ree could hear a low growl behind them, proof the beast had followed. He turned slowly, flashlight shining across the empty chamber. No sign of it now, but its presence hung in the air. He felt both dread and resolve. The team gathered close. Patel checked her scanner, which showed survivors just beyond the door. They had come too far to turn back now. With steady breaths, Ree gripped the hatch control and pressed. The door groaned as its old motors strained to work. It slid open in slow increments until they could slip through. Beyond lay the vast cargo hold where the human voices had called out. Dim light revealed figures huddled in the far corner. Weak, frightened, but alive. Ree's chest swelled with emotion, relief, triumph, and a fierce protectiveness. It had faced the darkness and the beast. And now, at last, they would reach the people who waited for help. They stepped into the vast cargo hold, and the air felt cooler, tinged with the faint hum of machinery. The lights here were brighter, though many flickered. Stacks of alien crates lined the walls, their labels indecipherable. In the far corner, huddled beneath a torn tarpaulin, were the survivors for humans in battered suits. Their faces were gaunt, eyes wide with a mix of hope and fear. Lieutenant Reed lowered his rifle and called out gently, "We're here to help." The survivors froze. Then a tall woman with silvered hair stumbled forward. Her voice was soft but clear. We thought no one would come." Dr. Patel knelt beside her, scanning the woman's suit. "You're safe now. We'll get you home." Relief and exhaustion fought on the woman's features. She sank to her knees, tears glistening. Johar and Counselor Vega moved to the side, checking the other survivors. A young man clutched a small journal to his chest, as if it contained the last of his strength. His suit was patched with alien alloy, and his eyes darted nervously. Vega spoke to him in a calm tone. "You're not alone. We'll take care of you." The man nodded, voice trembling. "Thank you." The fourth survivor, a child, perhaps 10 years old, watched from the back, arms wrapped tightly around a stuffed toy. The child's eyes were bright despite dirt and tears. Ree knelt, so he was eye level. "What's your name?" he asked. Softly, the child blinked and whispered, "Laya." Ree smiled gently. "I'm Lieutenant Ree. I promise we'll get you to safety." Laya nodded, clutching the toy harder. Dr. Patel checked the tallest woman's vitals with a handheld scanner. "They're weak, dehydrated, and low on oxygen," she reported. "We need to get them to the shuttle soon." Ree nodded. "Johar, set up the med transmitter here. Vega, keep them calm. I'll go check the ship's status." As Johar knelt to set the portable med transmitter on the floor, the hold's lights dimmed. A low groan echoed as the ship's power fluctuated. Sparks rained from an overhead conduit. The survivors froze, fear returning to their eyes. The silver-haired woman gasped. "No, not again." Ree stood and called out, "Johar, can you stabilize power?" Johar tapped his scanner. "I can reroute auxiliary lines, but it'll take time." Ree put a reassuring hand on the woman's shoulder. "You're safe. We'll protect you." His voice was calm, but inside he felt a tight knot of worry. He turned to Vega. "Keep talking with them. Distraction and hope." Vega nodded and addressed the group in soft, steady words. She spoke of Earth's blue skies, warm breakfasts, and smiling faces waiting for them. Slowly, the survivors' trembling eased. Leah hugged her toy and whispered about her home flowers in her garden, her mother's voice. The image brought a faint smile to the woman's lips. Down in the hatchway, Ree heard the distant roar of alien engines as the derelict ship shifted. Under the Deathworld's gravity, he hurried to the access panel and pried it open. Sparks flew, worked quickly to splice wires, hands steady despite the danger. Behind him, the hold's lights brightened as power returned. A collective sigh of relief echoed through the chamber. Back with the survivors, Patel administered oxygen masks. The tall woman inhaled deeply, eyes fluttering shut. It's been so long," she murmured. "We lost our friends." Weeks ago, her voice cracked and tears fell. Patel placed a hand over hers. "You're alive. You have a second chance." "Ah!" Laya edged forward and placed her toy in the woman's hands. "My name's Laya," the child said. "My friends, they were gone too." The woman looked down at the toy, then at Laya. Warmth filled her eyes. "Thank you, Laya," she whispered, voice choked. Ree returned and surveyed the scene.
Ow.
The survivors sat in a loose semicircle, breathing easier, hope rekindling in their hearts. Ree felt a swell of pride for his team. They had come through darkness and danger to find these human souls. He addressed them all. "We'll leave in 10 minutes. Astra Vigil will be ready to take you home." The survivors exchanged glances, relief and joy blooming. The woman reached out and clasped Ree's hand. "I don't know how to thank you," Ree smiled kindly. "Live well," he said simply. As they prepared to leave, the survivors stood taller. Patel gathered the journals and photographs. Leah held her toy close. Vega offered each a comforting word, and Johar rechecked the med transmitter. In that flickering light, surrounded by alien crates and machines, humanity's flame burned bright, proof that even in the most hostile places they could find hope courage, and each other. They had just ushered the survivors toward the shuttle ramp when the first drops of acidic rain began to hiss on the hull. Above, the sky beyond the shattered ceiling glowed a sickly green, and murky water dripped from broken pipes. "Lieutenant." Ree looked up, mouth set firm. "Back to the hold," he ordered. "We'll shelter until the storm passes." Dr. Patel nodded, gathering journals and photographs in her arms. The survivors shuffled forward, fear and confusion in their eyes. As the air turned sour and heavy, inside the cargo hold, the team hurried the survivors to the far corner behind stacked crates. The tall woman with silvered hair clutched Lia's hand, her knuckles white. The storm pounded overhead, each drop a sizzling sting on metal. Johar raced to resecure the damaged bulkhead, slamming panels into place to block the worst of the spray. Counselor Vega knelt beside Lia, whispering about warm blankets and hot soup, waiting for her back on Astrovigil. The child's tears, mixed with awe-human kindness in the heart of an alien ship. Then the creature returned. Through a panel of reinforced glass, they saw it looming in the rain-swept corridor, its scaled back arched, claws scraping metal, steam rising from its skin. It roared, a thunderous sound that shook loose bolts and sent shards of metal clattering. The survivors gasped. He raised his rifle, though the stun rounds had failed before, whispered, "Go to the shuttle bay. Patel and I will hold it off." The woman shook her head, but he pressed a gentle hand to her shoulder. "Trust me." As the survivors retreated, Patel and Ree moved toward the hold entrance. Lightning flashed beyond the hull breach, revealing the beast in stark relief. Ree fired a flare round, the bright arc of light startling the creature. Patel hurled a smoke grenade to cover their advance. The air filled with swirling white clouds, and the beast paused, its eyes searching. Ree dashed forward, firing another flare into its flank. The creature bellowed, sparks of steam hissing as its hide rejected the heat. Patel ducked behind a stack of alien crates, heart pounding. She scanned the room for anything to aid them. Her gaze fell on a fallen power conduit, thick cable wrapped in glowing insulation. An idea sparked. "Ree," she shouted through the smoke. He pivoted his rifle, spotting her gesture. But with a nod, he sprinted across the hold, dodging shards of falling metal. He wedged the cable against the wall and rigged it to the emergency generator switch. His hands shook as he connected wires, sweat mixing with the acid spray on his brow. The beast tore through the smoke, claws extended. For a moment, it lunged toward Patel's hiding place. She held her breath, gripping her scanner like a shield. At that instant, Ree slammed the switch. The conduit glowed bright white, then sparked to life. A crackling energy surge slammed into the creature as it leapt over the cable. Its limbs sizzled, and with a final echoing roar, it staggered back and collapsed onto the metal grating. The air went still, save for the distant hiss of rain. "Ow, Patel," exhaled, tears pricking her eyes. She touched her scanner to Ree's arm. "You did it." He gave a tired smile. "So did you." They turned to watch the survivors emerging from the shuttle bay corridor. The woman's eyes shone with gratitude as she led them forward, each step lighter than before. Lia skipped ahead, clutching her stuffed toy, peering at the fallen beast with awe rather than fear. In the quiet that followed, Vega guided the survivors into the shuttle. Johar closed the hatch behind them and sealed it tight. Lights switched from red to steady white, and the engines hummed. Ree and Patel stood at the cargo hold door, watching the shuttle's ramp retract. A sense of triumph warmed them against the storm's chill. They had fought together, humans and humans, in the dead of a Deathworld ship. Their bond was stronger for it. As the shuttle lifted away, batteries of green lightning faded into the gloom. He placed his hand on Patel's shoulder. "Let's get back," he said softly. She nodded, voice steady. "We leave survivors, and we leave hope." Together, they stepped back into the corridor, their lights cutting through darkness that would never feel as cold again. They stepped back onto the Astrovigil, its hull humming with renewed power. In the engineering bay, sparks danced as Technician Johar and Chief Engineer Santos worked side by side. They had stripped alien control panels from the Deathworld ship's reactor core and grafted them to human stabilizers. Santos wiped sweat from his brow, These circuits won't stay cool for long, he warned, eyes bright with determination. Johar adjusted a coolant valve, and a hiss of pressurized fluid soothed the heated lines. Together, they dared to tame alien fire. The corridor, Dr. Anya Patel and Counselor Vega guided the survivors through the corridors now lit by human lights. The tall woman with silver hair paused at a viewport window, watching as engineers rigged the shuttle bay for departure. She pressed her palm against the cool glass, as if feeling the ship's heartbeat. Leah peeked from behind her, eyes wide, at the rows of blinking consoles. Vega smiled and whispered, "This ship is yours as much as ours?" The survivors nodded, hope blossoming anew. In the reactor chamber, Santos tested a final gauge. The alien reactor thrummed with blue energy, and human wiring pulsed with life. A warning light blinked. Core stability, 75%. Santos frowned. "Shh. We need at least 90 to keep life support running." Johar scanned the alien schematic. "If we reroute power through the secondary manifold, we can boost output, but it's risky." Santos met his gaze. "We do it." For them, with steady hands, they flipped the secondary switch. Outside the chamber, Lieutenant Rhee oversaw the boarding area. He watched as the survivors prepared to leave. The tall woman held a trembling journal, precious records of their time stranded. Rhee knelt and took it gently. "Your stories are safe with us," he said softly. She gave a small, grateful smile. Bond formed in that moment, the unspoken promise that no memory would be lost in the void. Back in engineering, alarms chimed. Softly, Santos tapped his console. Core stability, 85%. He gritted his teeth. The reactor's hum deepened. Johar adjusted the isolator valves. Sweat beaded on his helmet's visor. "Almost there," he muttered. With a final circuit link, the gauge flicked to 92%. Power across the ship steadied into a steady green glow. Santos exhaled, relief flooding his features. "We did it," he said. Johar laughed, stamping his boot in triumph. A voice crackled. Over the comes Captain Mira Solano calling from the bridge. "Engineering report." Santos tapped his headset. "Reactor stable. Life support at full capacity." Myra's tone held pride and relief. "Well done. Prepare for departure in 10 minutes. Engineers cheered quietly, and Santos allowed himself a rare smile. He glanced at Johar, human and alien tech stronger. Together, Johar nodded, satisfaction warming him more than any coolant could. In the galley, Dr. Patel had prepared steaming cups of tea for the team and the survivors. The fragrant steam rose like small clouds in the recycled air. The tall woman sipped slowly, eyes closing as warmth spread through her chest. Leah giggled, offering Patel her toy in thanks. Patel ruffled the child's hair and said, "You remind us what we fight for." Round the table, crews and survivors shared stories from home, from the Deathworld ship, from the battle they had won. Laughter and tears blended into a quiet celebration. Lieutenant Rhee led the survivors to the observation deck for one last look at the hulking Class 15 vessel. Through thick viewports, they saw the battered ship drifting under the Deathworlds. Pale sun. The tall woman placed her hand against Rhee's shoulder. "We owe you our lives," she whispered. Rhee shook his head. "You owed yourselves hope? I just helped you find it?" Leah pressed her toy to the glass, looking back at the ship as if saying goodbye to old fears. Captain Solano stood behind them, arms folded, eyes steady. "Plot a course for Earth," she ordered. The helm officer nodded, fingers dancing over the console. Stars shifted into hyperspace lanes. As the Astrovigil shuddered and leaped forward, everyone felt the gentle tug of home. In the quiet hum of engines and the glow of alien-powered lights, they carried human hearts, alien knowledge, and the unbreakable spirit that had seen them through the darkness. They stepped back onto the Astrovigil, its hull humming with renewed power. In the engineering bay, sparks danced as Technician Johar and Chief Engineer Santos worked side by side. They had stripped alien control panels from the Deathworld ships, reactor core and grafted them to human stabilizers. Santos wiped sweat from his brow. "These circuits won't stay cool for long," he warned, eyes bright with determination. Johar adjusted a coolant valve, and a hiss of pressurized fluid soothed the heated lines. Together, they dared to tame alien fire. Down the corridor, Dr. Anya Patel and Counselor Vega guided the survivors through the corridors now lit by human lights. The tall woman with silver hair paused at a viewport window, watching as engineers rigged the shuttle bay for departure. She pressed her palm against the cool glass, as if feeling the ship's heartbeat. Leah peeked from behind her, eyes wide. At the rows of blinking consoles, Vega smiled and whispered, "This ship is yours as much as ours." The survivors nodded, hope blossoming anew. In the reactor chamber, Santos tested a final gauge. The alien reactor thrummed with blue energy, and human wiring pulsed with life. A warning light blinked. Core stability, 75%. Santos frowned. "We need at least 90 to keep life support running." Har scanned the alien schematic. "If we reroute power through the secondary manifold, we can boost output, but it's risky." Santos met his gaze. "We do it." For them, with steady hands, they flipped the secondary switch. Outside the chamber, Lieutenant Ree oversaw the boarding area. He watched as the survivors prepared to leave. The tall woman held a trembling journal, precious records of their time stranded. Ree knelt and took it gently. Stories are safe with us," he said softly. She gave a small, grateful smile. A bond formed in that moment, the unspoken promise that no memory would be lost in the void. Back in engineering, alarms chimed. Softly, Santos tapped his console. Core stability, 85%. He gritted his teeth. The reactor's hum deepened. Jahar adjusted the isolator valves. Sweat beaded on his helmet's visor. "Almost there," he muttered. With a final circuit link, the gauge flicked to 92%. Power across the ship steadied into a steady green glow. Santos exhaled, relief flooding his features. "We did it," he said. Johar laughed, stamping his boot in triumph. Voice crackled. Over the comes Captain Mira Solano, calling from the bridge. "Engineering report." Santos tapped his headset. "Reactor stable. Life support at full capacity." Mira's tone held pride and relief. "Well done. Prepare for departure in 10 minutes." Engineers cheered quietly, and Santos allowed himself a rare smile. He glanced at Johar. Human and alien tech stronger. Together. Johar nodded, satisfaction warming him more than any coolant could. In the galley, Dr. Patel had prepared steaming cups of tea for the team and the survivors. The fragrant steam rose like small clouds in the recycled air. The tall woman sipped slowly, eyes closing as warmth spread through her chest. Leah giggled, offering Patel her toy in thanks. Patel ruffled the child's hair and said, "You remind us what we fight for." Around the table, crews and survivors shared stories from home, from the Deathworld ship, from the battle they had won. Laughter and tears blended into a quiet celebration. Lieutenant Ree led the survivors to the observation deck for one last look at the hulking Class 15 vessel. Through thick viewports, they saw the battered ship drifting under the Deathworlds. "Pale sun?" The tall woman placed her hand against Ree's shoulder. "We owe you our lives," she whispered. Ree shook his head. "You owed yourselves hope. We just helped you find it." Leah pressed her toy to the glass, looking back at the ship as if saying goodbye to old fears. Captain Solano stood behind them, arms folded, eyes steady. "Plot a course for Earth," she ordered. The helm officer nodded, fingers dancing over the console. Stars shifted into hyperspace lanes. As the Astrovigil shuddered and leaped forward, everyone felt the gentle tug of home.
Ow.
In the quiet hum of engines and the glow of alien-powered lights, they carried human hearts, alien knowledge, and the unbreakable spirit that had seen them through the darkness. Lieutenant, we felt his heart pound as the red warning lights pulsed overhead. The makeshift alien reactor that powered the Astrovigil thrummed with unstable energy. Alarms echoed through the corridors, urgent beeps that promised doom if they did not act quickly. "Patel, Johar, this way," he called, voice firm despite the fear in his chest. Dr. Anya Patel and technician Johar raced after him, their boots clanging on metal grates. They burst into the engine access corridor where the walls glowed with leaking coolant and scorch marks. Pipes hissed steam, sparks danced along fractured conduits. Ree glanced at the display on the bulkhead. Core stability, 40%, and falling. Behind them, Counselor Vega's calm voice crackled in their earpieces. Proceed with caution.
Where?
Monitoring from the bridge, her steadiness grounded them, even in chaos. Ahead lay the fusion drive chamber. It lay dark and cavernous, the massive engine coils suspended like giant rings around a central core. Warning strobe lights painted the chamber in alternating crimson and black. Johar pointed to a severed power conduit snaking across the floor. That's our link to the drive stator, he said. We need to splice it before the stabilizers fail. Patel's scanner beeped wildly. Radiation spiking levels will kill us in minutes. She tightened her grip on her datapad. Ree swallowed hard. He remembered the scared faces of the survivors, waiting for them to bring back hope. He would not let them down. Move, he said. Johar knelt beside the conduit, tools laid out on a metal crate. Sparks flew as he stripped back insulation. Patel hovered, scanning for lethal leaks. Ree kept watch at the entrance, rifle slung but ready. The red lights flickered faster now, the corridor trembling with each pulse. Then came the deep rumble, as if the ship itself groaned under the strain. Suddenly the conduit arced with electricity, sending a bolt of blue-white energy across the floor. Johar jerked back, hair standing on end. Patel lunged forward, pressing her hand to his arm. Are you? She began, but he shook his head, voice steady despite the shock. I'm fine. Keep going. He bit his lip and returned to work, determined. Ree watched the readout climb slowly. Core stability, 50%, 55%. But the gain was thin. Wiped sweat from his brow and knelt beside Johar. We need to reroute through the secondary manifold, he said, pointing to a panel on the far wall. Patel, can you get that schematic online? She tapped her pad furiously. You have it? It's a long reroute, but it'll buy us time. Under Vega's steady guidance, the bridge lit a path through the comms. You have 4 minutes before critical failure, Vega warned softly. Ree felt the seconds slip away. He set to work beside Johar, unscrewing the panel and pulling wires through the open hatch. Sparks and oil dripped onto their boots. Engine's low hum rose to a shriek, and the floor vibrated. At last, Patel gave a sharp nod. All set, flipped the switch. Johar took a deep breath and pressed the heavy lever. A rush of power surged through the conduit. The engine coils glowed a steady blue. The alarms fell silent. The red lights gave way to a steady white glow, and the corridor fell still.
Hey.
Exhaled, legs shaking as he stood. They stayed for a moment, hands braced on the engine housing, hearts pounding in unison. Ree glanced at his team. Johar's face was streaked with grime, but lit by relief. Patel's eyes shone with quiet triumph. Vega's voice came through softly. Core stability at 92%. Excellent work. Pride swelled in Ree's chest. As they turned to leave, Ree placed a hand on the engine housing, speaking to the ship itself. Thank you, he whispered. The Astra Vigil had lived up to her name, surviving a Deathworld's horrors through human courage and alien ingenuity. Together, they raced back along the corridor, each step lighter than the last, carrying the hope of every life depending on them, proof that humanity's spirit burned brighter than any star. Lieutenant Ree stood before the airlock, heart pounding. Outside, the hull of the alien ship lay scarred by corrosion, its surface etched with jagged cracks where power conduits had shattered. He knew what he must do: repair the external lines. Feeding the fusion drive. If he failed, the Astra Vigil would lose its only engine. He drew a deep breath, feeling both fear and fierce determination. Humanity's hope rested on this one act. He slipped into his EVA suit, every click of the seals echoing in his ears. Technician Johar handed him the last toolkit: plasma torches, insulated clamps, and wiring spools. Dr. Patel stood close, her eyes bright with concern. Come back safe, she whispered. Ree gave a small nod, his voice hidden but resolute. Counselor Vega placed a hand on his shoulder. We believe in you, she said softly. With one final look at his team, Ree turned to the airlock. The hatch opened with a hiss and refloated into space. The Deathworld's pale sun cast a sickly green glow, illuminating the twisted hull. He tethered himself to a sturdy strut, boots anchored against the metal. His gloves moved quickly, clearing away molten slag and rust to expose clean conduit ends. Each motion was careful and slow. One mistake could mean drifting forever into the void. His breath echoed in his helmet, steady despite the enormity of the task. Suddenly, a distant rumble vibrated through the hull. Rhee's chest tightened. From the shadows, a massive silhouette detached itself from the ship's belly. Acid rain dripped off its scaled hide as it climbed toward him, eyes glowing with alien intelligence. His hand trembled on the wiring. He raised his plasma torch in one hand and the clamp in the other. "Stay back," he muttered into his cums. Though he knew no one could help in the vacuum, the creature snarled and lunged, its clawed foot nearly grazing Rhee's leg. He dodged, heart racing, then spun back to the conduit. Sparks flew as he lashed the clamp into place. The beast circled, jaws snapping inches from his visor. Rhee forced himself to breathe, to focus. With a final surge, he welded the splice closed and secured the insulation. The conduit hummed as power pulsed through it once more. Alarms rang. In his suit, the fusion drive readout blinked alive. Engine core at 80%. The beast let out a roar of frustration and backed away, melting into the green haze. Rhee exhaled, relief mixing with exhaustion. He pressed a button on his suit to signal completion. Repair successful. His limbs felt heavy as if gravity had returned. He gathered his tools, securing each clip and torch back into the pack tether. Still holding him, he drifted back toward the airlock. Inside, Dr. Patel and Johar waited, faces lit by the glow of the corridor lights. As Rhee crossed the threshold, Johar caught him, helping him step back onto solid ground. Patel rushed forward with her scanner. "Vital signs are stable," she announced, tears in her eyes. Rhee sagged against the bulkhead, relief flooding him. He managed a tired smile. Round him, his team gathered close, hands on shoulders, hearts connected by shared sacrifice. Humanity had won this night because one man dared to face the darkness. Beyond the hull, Lieutenant Rhee stood on the bridge of the Astrovigil, watching the stars stretch into bright streaks as the ship slipped into hyperspace. Around him, the crew moved with quiet purpose, each person aware of what they had accomplished. The survivors sat together near the viewport, pale faces lit by the glow of distant suns. Hope shone in their eyes. Captain Myra Solano tapped her. "Consul, we have left the Deathworld far behind," she said softly. "We carry lives saved, knowledge gained, and a warning for the galaxy." Her voice held pride and compassion. Rhee watched the survivors lean forward, listening to every word. They had risked everything on that rusted ship, and now they rode home. Dr. Anya Patel moved to the data terminal and began downloading the alien. Research collected from the reactor room and engine chamber. The files contained schematics of living starship cores and environmental controls for Class 15 worlds. With each transfer, Patel's eyes sparkled. "This knowledge will help us survive anywhere," she told the tall woman with silver hair. The woman nodded, gratitude and wonder in her voice. Technician Johar joined them, carrying a small crate of recovered journals and drawings. He opened it and presented a charcoal sketch of the 4 survivors standing brave against a storm of acid rain. Leah recognized herself in the child's crayon strokes and smiled shyly. Vega had tears in her eyes as she pointed to a passage in one journal, a line that read, "Human hearts burn brighter than any star." Below deck, Chief Engineer Santos and Johar worked side by side to integrate the alien reactor data into human simulation models. They tested new coolant pathways and energy matrices that could one day power distant colonies. Every successful test brought cheers. Santos clapped Johar on the back. "Together we are stronger," he said. Johar grinned, wiping grease from his hands. In the shuttle bay, Counselor Vega prepared to return the survivors' personal items. The silver-haired woman gathered her journals and photographs, pressing them to her chest. "These pages tell our story," she said softly. She handed a journal to Rhee. "Please give this to Captain Solano. Let everyone know what we endured and why we must help others." Rhee accepted it with reverence. Leah ran along the ramp to Rhee and hugged his leg. "Thank you," she whispered voice. Small but powerful. Renelton placed his hand on her shoulder. "You were brave," he said. "Your courage saved you all." Leah looked up at him, hope shining in her eyes. He straightened and offered her a gentle smile. Captain Solano watched these moments unfold. She stepped forward, her uniform gleaming. "This mission proved our spirit," she announced. "We will present our findings to the Council. We'll share the stories of those we saved. And we will broadcast the warning of Class 15 worlds to every exploration fleet." The crew erupted in quiet applause. On the observation deck, the survivors stood before a panoramic window. Below them, the wreck of the Deathworld ship appeared, as a dark silhouette against swirling nebulae. The tall woman pressed her hand to the glass. "May no one else face its horrors unprepared," she whispered. Leah offered her toy to the wreck, a small gesture of peace, rejoined them, placing a hand on the woman's shoulder. "Your story will guide others," he said. "Your hope will light the way." She turned to him, tears of relief and pride falling. "Thank you for reminding us what it means to be human." His chest tightened at her words. The Astrovigil hummed gently as hyperspace currents carried them home. In the mess hall, Patel served hot tea and fresh bread for everyone. The rich aroma filled the air, warming hearts. Survivors shared laughter as they planned their return to Earth. Engineers discussed new reactor designs. Vega took notes for her next counseling session. As the ship neared human space, the bridge officer announced over comms, "Entering normal. Space in 3, 2, 1. The stars snapped back into points of light. Earth's beacon blazed ahead, a blue-green jewel against black. Relief and joy swept the crew. Captain Solano addressed the ship. "We return not only as explorers, but as teachers. We return with stories of courage, lessons of survival, and proof that humanity never quits." She paused, eyes bright. "This is why we journey into the unknown." Lieutenant Ree looked at each member of his crew and then at the survivors. In their faces, he saw the future, a future where humans and alien knowledge fused to conquer any challenge. He whispered to himself, "We did it. We showed them why humans endure." Outside the view screen, Earth's familiar glow grew larger. The Astrovigil descended toward home, carrying more than people and data. It carried the unbreakable flame of human hope, ready to shine across the galaxy.